Well, hello, everybody. David G. from David G. Model Citizen, former Winston man here. It's been a couple weeks since you've heard from me. I've been busy. Kevin Crowley's been busy. Our producer's been busy. And we have to come together when we can all get together since we all po folk and we have to work. We have day jobs. But what I'd like to start off with tonight is a couple announcements of where we are in this month of February. I'm pretty disgusted by the whole narrative and landscape of what's been going on in the last, 6 weeks, as you all know. And I try to keep calm, but this week has really been push for me to try to figure out who we're trying to save this industry for. But with that being said, I got back from Oklahoma City from the great Vape Carnival. Kevin, you heard about that. Have you ever been to Vape Carnival, Kevin?
No, just the only show I went to was the one in Bowling Green. That's the only one.
What a bunch of great guys. I mean, we're talking about Mark Bird and, Ronnie Everett and Jonathan May. And these guys are just pure love. They're the nicest guys in the world. And I don't care if Mark Bird eats chicken feet. That's his goal in life, I guess. I mean, he's just a super, super wonderful human being. And he's got the soul of a saint. And I just love him all to death. And unfortunately, I went out there on Friday, spent 3 days with the Pinnacle crew and Aaron Biebert, who was my roommate out there in Oklahoma City. We'd gotten together back in Austin, Texas, about 6 weeks ago with the SFATA and the VTA conference. And, we didn't have issues really, but we had kind of like separated our thinking and our philosophies because of my knee-jerk reaction with him being involved with Foundation for a Smoke-Free World, which we've talked about, Kevin. And and I learned that, sometimes you overreact as I did, and I yell at my kids for that, and you'll be yelling at Logan for that as he gets older.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes I just overreacted. But anyway, we got together, and my good friends with Pinnacle, who is going to be sponsoring this program, the Pinnacle Hour, basically, is under the David G. Model Citizen because of their growth with the Farm Bill passing in December and their exponential growth daily, with CBD and hemp. So I've decided that I'm going to focus on the positive things, even though I'm really negative right now. And that sounds like an oxymoron. But Kevin, what is going on in your week before I get into my week? Because I think my week is going to trump your week. No pun intended.
You can pick a few topics.
I got 1,000. I went today I have 1,000 notes on my freaking 3x5 cards that I never know where to put them because I always lose them, and then I get sidetracked because I talk too much. What's on your mind? Because
there was a FDA new stop smoking product. Clinical trials were not science-based. That one hit me last week from whyquit.com, I think is what it is. Don't quote me at the moment.
Not to interrupt. Didn't we find out that they knew they weren't science-based?
Right. They knew stop smoking product clinical trials were not science-based. Period. Period. Sad. Sick, actually. Sad.
Now, would that be considered fraud?
I would think it is considered fraud. I think, if I remember right, it's GlaxoSmithKline, I'd have to look, was sued for saying it doubles your chances, if I remember correctly, and
right,
somebody will get me if I'm wrong, but they've been sued for that before. Somebody was. I'm not positive of Glaxo or not. And yeah, it's false advertising, period, in my opinion. I got Richard, yeah, I was thinking of your pal. Senator Burr ripped somebody's ass at the.
Oh yeah, he's an ally. He made some good sense with his charts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned he was in 2009. He was looking at harm reduction, and then nobody gave a shit. So
you're kidding.
That kind of yeah. That he was looking for harm reduction, or that nobody gave a shit. So that was enlightening. So I kind of went backwards with him, and I'm working on a blog about that specifically. That was focused on menthol, but he hit a lot of pockets, like you guys have had more than 10 years now to do something, and you're not,
Right.
so they're calling them out a little bit better.
Hmm.
Uh, State of public health. I did a blog Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I don't know. The Lung Association grades the tobacco control world, if you will, on how well they do. So I graded I graded them myself, and they all failed. Every
With
one
all
of them.
well, if you look at all the American Lung Association's report on the states of tobacco control, they do it by state. If you look it up,
Yeah.
you'll see that everything is an A when it comes to taxation, a B when it comes to clean indoor air, a C when or maybe a D when it comes to offering prevention and programs, but a total F for prevention, literally,
Right.
and they don't put anything into prevention, and
No.
they're still getting the billions of dollars from the MSA, which are now we're coming up on 19 years now, in 20 years.
Yep.
It was 1998, 21 years. So there's 4 years supposedly left, but really it's been written in small letters that it's going to be in perpetuity. So now you got things like, for example, not to steal your thunder here, but
Let me stop you. For anybody that doesn't know, it never ends, ever.
Never. Okay. That's what I mean. In perpetuity, I guess. But, Texas, I just found out this week, is demanding $125 million, from lost MSA revenue that was supposed to have been paid from the agreement they signed in 1998. And right now, everybody's saying, well, the money was paid based on the amount of consumption by teenagers and smokers. And the problem is that in 2015, and these numbers may be off by year, but I think it was 2015, 5 tobacco companies who were paying into this MSA, Master Settlement Agreement. You had 2, Lorillard and RJ Reynolds, that sold off 4 companies like Winston, Maverick, Salem, and Winston, actually. And all of those 4 that were sold stopped paying into the Master Settlement Agreement, and no one in other states. So Texas is now demanding, after an audit, that they want $125 million in back master settlement payments. And it looks like they're going to get it because they did not tell the state of Texas that they sold it. They told everybody else, but not Texas for some reason. So, and that along with the bond issues that all the states that took all their billions of dollars up front,
Yes.
put them in bonds, and then the bonds came to be paid off, and then there was nothing left to pay them. And that's why, and if everybody who wants to really understand what this tobacco issue is all about, and the vaping issue, and all the corruption and all the lies and all the fraud and all the collusion between big pharma, big tobacco, and FDA. And I just said it right out loud. It's the FDA and Truth Initiative and Campaign for. They're all in cahoots, as I've said 100 times. I'll say it 100 times more because I know it and I have proof, and I'm going to expose them. When I do my documentary, which is in the works right now, which I'll be making an announcement on with you, Kevin, in the next week or so. Probably tomorrow night on Smoke Free Radio, because things have now come together where it's time for me to speak up, with you backing me and Steve producing me and you guys coming together with me and saying, hey, it's time that we shit or get off the pot. Okay. Because we have played this game too long. I'm going to be calling for an all-out boycott on all donations to the American Cancer Society, American Lung Association, American Heart Association, because they have been fighting all of the wonderful positive things that could negate a lot of their efforts in trying to prevent cancer, lung disease, and heart disease. So that's going to be a big part of what my push will be for 2019 and 2020. And of course, we know vaping being 92 to 97% safer than smoking combustible. They don't deserve a nickel. They don't deserve a penny. I don't care if it's for breast cancer or testicular cancer. They don't deserve a damn dime when smoking is the number one cause of cancer, out there, even after breast cancer for women. So these are the things that we're going to be talking about tonight, tomorrow night, hopefully on Smoke Free Radio, and my next podcast next week. I started a YouTube channel, which I haven't even told you guys about yet. I opened it up in Oklahoma City last week when I was out there. Did you get to see it, Kevin?
I did see the video. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, it was just a video of me walking around the Vape Carnival, which we started talking the show about, Vape Carnival in Oklahoma City. A bunch of vendors coming together, and my favorite people besides you guys, the Pinnacle people, the Pinnacle family. Jessica Lacey and her husband Kevin, who owned the company, have taken me under their wing a year ago last week to be a part of their CBD wellness program for tobacco harm reduction, which I believe CBD is. And I did a video because Aaron Bieber was going to be there making some huge announcement, which we'll talk about a little bit. Of course, Vape Radio with Ron Cochran, Rodman, and Pablo wasn't there, but we had some weather issues last week, so people couldn't get there in on time, and it was not a lot of foot traffic, but a lot of great people who I just adore, who came out there, and a lot of us came back sick. So I don't know if we caught a bug out there and brought up to our home states. But anyway, I did my YouTube, and I've announced my YouTube channel, which I'm going to be doing 2 to 3 times a week of maybe 6 to 7 minute hit and runs to get people interested, so we can get a following. Along with Smoke Free Radio, who will be in conjunction with us in the Pinnacle Hour. So things are moving nicely because, unfortunately, we see more negatives than we do positives. And all I've seen this week is nothing but crap, nothing but bad mouthing of people who are trying to do good things. We have enough fight with the FDA and giving them an F for their ability to control what's going on. And the stuff that I follow you on when I can, because I'm also running around trying to keep up on things, and I expect you to keep me in touch. But all the news of the week, of course, with the young guy that died because his mod blew up, and we're hearing reports that it really wasn't that, because he was in the hospital a whole day and a half before they did the operation. I mean, you start hearing all the stuff, and of course they blame the e-cigarette for that. Here's I think when I looked into it, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you had a chance to, Kevin, but there was like 265 injuries from the electronic cigarette, but only one or two were deadly because one hit a carotid artery when it exploded, and that's because the mod had the wrong battery and it wasn't packed right. And of course I made the announcement that nobody cares that 737 people died from machinery at work that
Right.
malfunctioned, but you don't hear a damn thing about them. Or you don't hear about the people who misuse their things, like Dale Earnhardt, who drove 190 miles into a fucking wall, and died, and people wonder why they're still investigating. Well, you drive a car 190 miles into a wall, you're going to die. you know you misuse technical devices that you are putting close to your esophagus and your mouth and your brain, and you don't do it right, and you haven't followed the rules, and you're a novice and you're not taking the
And
instructions. And
and
that
we can't
and
innovate anything. Everything stopped in 2016.
because of
Yep.
the
So
FDA,
there's
because
that.
the FDA won't let
Yep.
you, right? Okay, so at this point, what do you do? With everything that's been happening in the last 2 weeks, of course, with Trump and the Democrats and the State of the Union and the shutdown and government, and all these new Democrats coming in, and all of these freshmen coming in being a pain in the balls. These are the people that I just can't stand. No wonder people don't give a shit about people who smoke, because they did it to themselves. I'm going to worry about other things like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm going to worry about, Nancy Pelosi trying to railroad people, and the immigration laws that we're trying to, use as a reason why we can't build a wall, because we're somehow not humane. And we know all the truth about every other president has asked for the same kind of barriers
Yeah.
over the last. I'm over it. So you and I and Steve and Aaron in Pinnacle, we have a job to do, and the only job that I want to do is try to make the level of awareness proportionate to the havoc that's being wreaked. And it's a tragedy that some 24-year-old kid, he died because he was vaping, and it blew
Yeah.
up for whatever reason. Okay. How many people die in car accidents because they weren't driving the car properly, or, it was just something happened. We haven't banned cars. How many alcoholic deaths, this actor, I knew him, Christophe St. John. He used to be on Young and the Restless for 27 years. He died of alcohol overdose. I guess he had alcohol poisoning out in California at 52 years of age. We're not banning anything else. This has got to stop. This nonsense right now has got to stop because they're stopping the people who can help, like you, like me, like every store owner who's put their life savings into a brick and mortar to offer education, but we can't educate because it's against the law. It's against the rules, and I'm really nothing without my passion. And I got to tell you, every day it gets harder and harder to find that passion to go out and do what I do. But then I start talking about it and somehow it just keeps coming back. And I find that the best way to help is to put your arms around someone who needs it, and they are smokers because I still see them as being the stepchildren. These are the people that are forgotten, they're exposable, they're disposable and expendable because it's their own fault. They should never have started. So you pay the price, you pay the piper. So that's what this podcast has always been about. And of course, we try to throw in some entertainment value. We try to introduce things that I feel are important, like CBD. And we know that we had successes with the Farm Bill in 2018. But then you still have the states like Texas. Did you hear about that
No.
by any chance? Fort Worth sheriffs were trying to arrest
No.
CBD users last. Um, so quickly, the state legislators had to introduce a bill, HB 1325, I guess, to allow Texas to join these 41 other states in hemp cultivation that would bring them into compliance with the Farm Bill of 2018. But there's still these draconian politicians who just say, and sheriffs and these political figures who say, CBD is marijuana and you're high. These people have one job to do, and the one job that they have to do is to go out and look at the laws, learn what the laws are, update your files, and then stop all this bullshit and going after people for no reasons when all they're trying to do is
Stop
get healthy and
harassing
well.
people.
We know what CBD does in hemp. So I'm just over the accusations of the keyboard warriors and the ninjas, and that brings us to my anger this week. And that is, went to I went to Oklahoma City, and Aaron Biebert from A Billion Lives, the director, who came out there and he was announcing his new project. And his new project. Why don't you tell us about it, Kevin? You know more
It's
about it than I do. I mean, I know about it.
It's called You Don't Know Nicotine, KNOW, nonicotine.com with a K, NOW, nicotine.com. I saw it when he announced it. I kind of knew just beforehand. I had a little bit of behind the scene thing. And I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited. The reason I am is because they say it's addictive. I was told it isn't. The David Dorn, I'm assuming you know his name.
Oh yeah, I know.
He
David
told me that I was crazy, that it's not addictive, and I needed to have higher strength on my survey. And I said, "You're nuts." So he explained it to me quite well. And then I did a challenge, public health challenge about proving it to me. Nobody could. Public health didn't anyway. Vapors tried, but not with the criteria. When this came out, I thought, wow, this is a great idea. I don't know how big it can be or how little people are going to pay attention, but this is a huge topic. It's a huge, in my opinion, $1 billion lie. So I donated personally to it because I feel it's a good project. I've got nothing against it at all. I want to see if I'm wrong. I'd like to see if I'm wrong. Absolutely. Because I don't want to be wrong. I hate being wrong.
Well, stop for a second. What has all this FDA nonsense been about reducing the levels of nicotine in
Yes.
combustible tobacco, the Juul epidemic because of the 50 milligrams of nicotine in
Right.
each and every pod, nicotine. So yes, I think these kinds of educational materials that nobody else wants to bring into the fray, okay, to discuss, to have a narrative on. Otherwise, we just have to take the political pundits and the freaking media who just takes for a paid for press release and passes out through cutting and pasting in their newspapers or on their social media. So, here's a guy, and Aaron and I have never had a problem. I love Aaron Biebert. I love A Billion Lives. He put me on a course of passion that I probably wouldn't have had I not done the movie. and A Billion Lies if you haven't seen it. And I did find out that only about 3.5 million people
Yep.
worldwide saw it. And that's pretty sad when there's 10 million vapors in the United States and 7 million of them didn't go see it. And I'm not even talking about 7 million in the US because that's worldwide. And we, as you know, went to many, many other countries. So for a film like that to be so eye-opening and such a indictment against big tobacco and big pharma
And
and
change
big
it
government and
changed the minds of people in New Zealand, the people that mattered
it did.
with
The
days.
people that matter. And Maria Glover, went ahead and they changed things. So he was able to motivate. But then, of course, as people do, as the way of human beings is to, you raise somebody up on a pedestal, and then if you don't get what you want, you tear them down. We did that to many of our superstars. They got so big for their britches, and then you want to see them fail. And that's what happened. A Billion Lives was doing really, really well. I was a part of it. I wasn't supposed to be, but it just happened that I spoke a lot and I said a lot of things that had impotence of what he was trying to get out as far as information, and I was very proud of it and I loved it. I traveled all over the world with him with it, and still we weren't able to get it the legs that it needed to be seen. And of course, then the haters went after him and said he was just doing it for the money, and he didn't put it on. Excuse me, he didn't put it on Netflix. He should have given it away free. And do you do a job
No,
for free, Kevin? When you
no,
go to work every day,
just
Steve, do you do a job for free when you go to work? Do you do it? No,
Hell no.
you,
I do this for
hell
free.
no.
I do
So
advocacy and
if
activism
you,
for free. Yeah,
well, I do
that's
it
it.
for free too. But here you got Aaron, who spent 2 years putting this thing together with a crew, and I'm sure he got some perks, by going to some of these countries and having, some of his meals paid for and things like that. But you don't put 2 years of your life into something. I know because I did the same thing for the last 8 years in the vaping frickin' industry. I mean, from 2010 really. I mean 2009 I started, but 2010 is when I really got active and I never made a dime. I just hate the fact that this guy who is a sweet man, he's got a loving family, and whatever his motives were, people just mistook it as far as being greedy. And now the same shit is happening. When he announced last week, you knew about it. I knew about it in Austin, Texas, that he was thinking about doing another documentary on nicotine. And of course, I looked at it like, it's kind of boring. But then again, I look back and as a human being, that's your knee-jerk reaction is like, nicotine is really not
But
blood and guts and gore,
that's our perspective, knowing what we know. That's
Exactly.
because we know what we know.
Exactly.
Nobody else knows
That's right.
because I thought about this. If you're in the medical industry, you can contact me through the website, vapinglinks.blog. I'll give you my personal number if you like. We can have a chat. If you've been in the doctoring medical field the past 20 or 30 years, let's pretend you're my age, you're 50 years old. In 1984, 5, 6, 7, 8, they said nicotine is addictive. You've been convinced of it since then. Now, if you
Mhm.
can't take 2 hours to just try to figure it out, you're going to completely understand that it's addictive and you're going to repeat that lie forever. And that's the problem. We know better. The public does not.
That's an interesting thing because back when I was, I turned on R.J. Reynolds, became the anti-tobacco activist that I was in '89 and '90, and then we saw the 7 tobacco executives go before Congressman
Yeah.
Waxman and Congressman Lucan, and they all
Yes,
said
they
7
did.
tobacco executives
Yes, they
nicotine is
did.
not addictive, and of course we all, didn't know if we should shit or go
Was
blind
that was a
because
setup.
we were
That was a
taught our
setup.
whole lives that
You know it
it
was a
was a
setup,
setup.
and they knew it
So
was a setup, and they went with it. They went with it
they went
hook
with
and
it,
sinker.
but all
They,
these years,
there's no way they
you have no
enhance it. They
Kevin,
know that. Yes, sir.
Kevin, I I would no, I'm not interrupting. I'm just saying I'm agreeing with you that I spouted that same lie every day, 3, 4
Sure.
times a day
So did
in
I.
school programs because that's what you are what you're taught. Okay. Now we need some evidence. It's just like all of these things that come to pass 30, 40 years later. We find out from, I don't know if you remember the Vietnam
Nope.
War.
I
You were
remember of
probably
it.
just a little kid. Okay, and I was 18, 19, 20 at the time, so of course I know a lot more of it because I lost friends there, and then there was all these marches against the Vietnam War and protests and everything. And then of course all the lies came out that it was a just war and we were doing it to protect American soil and we were doing it for this and we were doing it for that. And then 25 years later, we find out from McNamara, who was the chief secretary of defense, came out and said, no, it was all a big
Yeah.
bogus hoax, and it was all a big fraud, and we're going to find the same thing out with the Russian, collusion. We're going to find the same thing out down the road. So you got to go with pretty much your gut on things, and I got to tell you, there's got to be a reason. I hope Aaron finds out what it is in this
I
documentary.
hope so.
No nicotine. There's got to be a reason why somebody who is smoking cigarettes and finds out when they're 57 years of age that they have lung cancer
Right.
can't
Right.
quit. Now, there's got to be some
And
pharmacological reason,
what I just brought up
and
earlier was that they lied about their scientific data. So
right.
a couple weeks ago, I don't know if we talked about it. There's a study going on where they're giving people more patches of nicotine, and they're saying, it works.
Hmm.
So had they purposely
Hmm.
made these things so they wouldn't work? Because it
Hmm.
sounds collusionary, if that's a word. Steve, you can check me. If I'm the tobacco company and
I'm not
you're the
sure on that one.
pharmaceutical company, and I say, well, I'll make one so they'll quit and we'll take their money, and when they're going back to smoking, they'll go back to you. I don't know if
Hmm.
that's true.
So I guess what we're saying is that if you and I can, and you and I have been in this business a while, and you've been a smoker, and now you're a vapor. I don't vape anymore, and I'm making that announcement right now. I don't vape because of my COPD and emphysema. I have enough shit going on in my lungs that I don't need to add anything. I don't care if it's zero nicotine, propylene glycol, glycerin. I have to use my inhalers, and I have to use my albuterol because I'm at the stage at 69 years of age, where I have to take care of my health, and I'm not going to put anything into my body, with the exception of CBD. I don't take any pain pills. I don't take any meds. I do take albuterol in my inhaler because it's the medicine that I need to help fill up the lung holes. But I just don't vape anymore, and I never really did. I just did it for shits and giggles so I could create a narrative with people when they see me vaping. So because I quit smoking before vaping even came around. I quit
Yep.
in 1989. But I thought that the concept of vaping was so miraculous that I wanted people to start asking me because of my fame and who I was, that maybe I could get them to consider it as a possible alternative to smoking combustible. So, my reasons are
Yep.
different than yours. But the bottom line, and talking about Aaron, I don't know what Aaron's going to do and how he's going to get more information, because you're going to have the same thing as we had before. You're going to have two scientists with equal and opposite
I
ideas, right?
Him and I had a private back and forth email, and all I said to him was, I want the truth. I don't care how much I like it or I don't. It has nothing to do with what I like or I don't. It's not about feelings. It's about science. Um, I know more than most because I did my challenge. I had a couple people doing it with me behind the scenes, and I was not
Hmm.
screwing around because I was offering money to tobacco-free kids if they proved it. I was going to donate everything. It was 600 and something dollars that went to ecigaretteresearch.org, um, and it would have gone to tobacco-free kids who I disdain. I just can't stand them, but
Hmm.
what I told him was, sorry, got off track. If he shows us the truth, and if he finds the truth, if it is or it isn't, and he gets some dirt, I'm good. I don't care. I don't care how he does it.
Hmm.
He told me he's not backing down from anybody.
I'm taking a
Good.
look at his
Well,
the Kickstarter page for the documentary.
Yep.
Looks like they got funded as of a couple days ago,
Yep.
which is cool for
they
him. So
did.
yeah, there. But basically, the mission statement has 3 points that he hits that are pretty solid. How does nicotine actually affect developing brains? Are there any benefits to adults who use nicotine without smoking? And then who's covering up the truth about nicotine and why? And that's kind of the
Well,
real
the
hard-hitting
answer
one.
to all three of those, the answer is all yes, yes, yes. It can affect the brain of a young adolescent, certainly, as anything would, any other,
Right.
chemical. But it certainly does have benefits for people who have Parkinson's. There are some other benefits that have been hidden and buried because they don't want it to cause this
Yeah.
confusion because they want to
Right.
control the confusion. Okay, this organized confusion
It's
at its worst. So, but my point, Kevin and Steve, is that here is a guy, Aaron Biebert, who had limited success with A Billion Lives, which I was a part of and a big part of it, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And I'm not going to be a part of the nicotine one, I don't think, because I have my own projects that I'm doing now with you guys that hopefully will carry this ball to help parallel what he's doing and corroborate what he's doing, and he corroborates me. So and us. So at this point, my fame, my history, my celebrity, having been the former Winston man, knowing what I know has got to be told in the form of my own documentary, my own story, the David Gerlitz story. And if anybody wants to watch it, they can. If they don't, I don't give a shit. But my story has got to be told at this stage of my life because I'm not going to go to everybody that I meet. And when somebody says, "What do you do? What did you do for a living?" I certainly don't want to go into a 12-hour dissertation of who I am. Um, and I certainly don't want to write a book because nobody reads anymore because it has to be in a soundbite. So what I'm announcing is that I am going to do the documentary, the David G. documentary, David Gerlitz story about me being the Winston Man because it is provocative. It is, pretty, salacious. I know stuff, and at this point in my life, I'm going to name names that I've been naming all along, but I'm going to name it in a way that people will hear it in a 26-minute documentary times three. We're going to do three little documentaries. I don't know when we're going to start, but I know that I'm working on it. I'm working on getting the footage together and all the pictures. That's where you and Steve come along with me and we build this together. But we have a go to do it because the timing is right, the landscape is right, the narrative is right. Because here's what's happening, guys. Okay, we saw the last 3 months, Jewel nightmare. Okay, uh, I haven't even said I told you so, but I did. Um, and now everybody's saying, well, they can't sell out for the next 5 years.
Of
That's a
course
bunch
they
of
can.
bullshit. Here's the way it's playing out. And if you don't believe me, that's your prerogative. But they bought Altria bought um, what was it? 13 was it
35, yeah.
35%? Yeah, 35%. 35% of Juul for a total of $13 billion to a company that has a public value worth of $38 billion. The goal was to take them over to have a 93% market share of the e-cigarette market,
Yeah.
which they will have.
In,
They
in
have it
the
now because now they got
in the
35% ownership.
convenience store market, right?
Exactly. And what's happening is you're going to see this year with the PMTA being moved up from 2022 to 2020. You're going to see it November, December 2019. All of the implosions will start. The implosions are going to happen, and you can mark my words. And if you don't believe me, that's your okay. It's going to be either going to implode, it's going to be destroyed, or it's going to commit suicide. Okay, and if you don't believe me, um, well, I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. And we're going to be down to about 150 markets for e-liquid and hardware. And the majority will be owned by big tobacco. That's my prediction. That's what I say. Nobody likes me to say it because it means I'm negative and I'm poo-pooing it and I'm giving up the ship. And I'm losing. Yeah, I lost faith a long time ago. You know, and that doesn't mean that vaping is going to go away. It's just going to be under a different organization, which is going to be big tobacco. So all of these years that we've been talking about, well, vaping isn't tobacco. Yeah, it is because now VTA, one of our biggest trade associations, has some of the biggest sponsors through Juul and Imperial Tobacco with Blue. And now you got other molecule labs and other companies that are selling out to big tobacco. And they're waiting. They're lined up at the trough. And I've said this numerous times at nauseum. So uh, people, I think somebody wrote today, what do you think? Picture today being 2020. And what do you see the vaping industry? Let me ask you, Kevin, what do you see? Picture this today, 2020. What do you see being the vaping industry in your
In
vision of what it
2020,
could be?
what it could be or what it will be.
It will be. Or it could be, yeah, because we don't know, because everything's right now a guess, but
What
a
it
pretty
could
damn good guess.
what it could be
What do you think it could?
is less harm for Americans. What it probably will be, my opinion, flame me all you like, is small manufacturers are going to either partner or sell out to the big ones. And I'm guessing you're right about
Mhm.
100 to 150 major manufacturers, right? Outlets.
Outlets.
Uh,
Mhm.
shops are going to close because the FDA is going to come in on them, and that's it. That'll be it.
Sure. And there's not gonna be online sales.
And
Online
the
sales
black
are gonna be
market is
gone.
going to be twice as big as it is now.
Huge. And the DIYers are going to have problems because they're going to be putting too
Yeah.
much stuff in there,
And
and they're
people
going
are
to
going
be
to get
getting
hurt.
too much
Yeah.
nicotine, and people are going to get hurt. So, and now then you're going to have more people who are building their own hardware, and they're going to use the wrong batteries, and you're going to have more blowups. And so right now you're going to see history repeating itself day after day after day, and I have never seen anything like it. I thought I was surprised when Juul sold, for 13 billion, and only 35%. I told you that
He's more than
a
that,
year and a half ago,
probably longer.
Kevin. I really did. Steve, I think I even told you that,
What's
Steve.
that?
I even told you a year ago, or that Juul was going to
Oh
sell out
yeah,
for
well I was
12
going
or
to
13
interject and say
billion
when we
bucks.
were talking, magnitude less of money, and it's gone so much higher since then. I think we were talking about 4 billion
Yeah,
was the conversation they were having back then,
right.
and you're talking almost 40 billion now. It's ridiculous.
And that was in 4 years. How would you like to start? It's more than Airbnb. It's more than Uber. And the thing that's really weird about Juul is that it's this little device. It costs about $1 to make. Okay, if that. And then that now the pods are going to be, with flavors of mint, tobacco, and menthol, and that's what the FDA has allowed because the number 3 sellers for Juul is mint, tobacco, and menthol. So I know it sounds harsh for me to say this because I'm an advocate. I am an activist. I want to believe that this, society, the trade industry, the VTA, the AVA, SAFADA, CASA, and all these state organizations are. I know they're trying, and last week I got really pissed off because one state said that I'm too militant,
Oh
and they don't
yeah.
want anybody that sounds like me. And I don't want to name the state, but it rhymes with Morgia. Um, but I won't mention the name. And I like these people, and they like me, but I'm too militant for their lobbyists and for their legislators, and that they'll probably deny it and say, no, we didn't mean that. We just have to be careful what we say because we're paying, And then the VTA, and I like Tony Abboud a lot, and I've never disliked him, and I've never disliked what they're trying to do, but it's not going to work because they just want to see Safada go away. He told me that from his lips to my ears, and all this anti-togetherness. It's the same thing with the Republicans and the Democrats. You get the same thing with Safada and VTA. You get the same thing. Well, where do we get these dollars from to pay the lobbyists to go in there and schmooze in Washington and these fly-ins? And then we have these damn conventions, where people go out and spend $150,000 in bar tabs and hotels and flying in
Wow.
when that money could be so. I mean, I'm just sick of it. And I go to these things. I don't get a damn dime. And Rod Cochran goes with Vape Radio, doesn't get a damn dime. Some of us go, and then these people, then you get this guy from Tripmore who's driving a $330,000, Maserati or whatever it is, hell it is, and then you got Ed Bolin from, the Cigarette Gallery or whatever it is, e-cig Gallery and Candy King, and, making fortunes and fortunes, and everybody's hating them because they're not ponying up to the advocates. And I mean, we're imploding, and I don't want to be a part of the implosion. I want to jump ship before that, but I don't want to jump ship with the people that maybe I can influence with some sort of an education. And our podcast is not going to do it unless we get some sort of national following because I'm a big mouth. I have to become the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I have to be the one, the go-to guy, just like she's the it girl for the Democrats, which I can't stand. That's my life. I don't like her. I don't like but somehow she's getting heard whether her information is correct or stupid or off the wall or erroneous or illogical. She's being heard. Now, what is it going to take for us to be heard, Kevin and
Uh,
Steve? Really? Do I have to say fuck every 3 seconds? Do I have to get people, to get mad at me and write about me because I'm off center and I'm off the wall and I'm ranting, raving lunatic?
I don't
I
know.
mean, what do I
I
do?
don't know.
I mean,
So
it's the same issue
you don't.
you've been facing your whole career of like most of our listeners are probably were already on board with your mission. So trying to get
Sure.
that to new people is always a challenge. And I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, without yeah.
So you guys have. So let me ask you: do you guys have a problem with me doing what I'm going to do when I just do a documentary? I'm going to do it as low cost
No,
as I can.
I'm sure I'm going to help you do most of it. So I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
I'm excited to be a part of that. So
But but there's also a hope springs eternal, and I am good friends with Aaron Biebert. We talked today, and he's leaving tomorrow for his trip cross country. I guess they're going to be they're going to be in Colorado and then on to LA. And I've got my friends out in LA who are going to hopefully, come through with some sort of funding. And I don't do any crowdfunding. I don't do any Kickstarter. I'm not looking for any money from anybody. This is our baby. The sponsors for our podcast, David G. Model Citizen, will be the Pinnacle Hour, because that's a whole other game right now because CBD is so important in my life, and it's so important for people who are quitting in other areas of their life. And CBD has been approved nationally or federally, with the Farm Bill passing in 2018. And now we just have to get other states in line. Alabama is now in line. Missouri is now in line. Michigan's getting in line. You still got 3 states that are screwing around: Ohio and Iowa and Texas, I think. Maybe Louisiana. No, maybe that's better. But they're starting to come around because people are reading the books that says you now can no longer indict or you criticize or arrest anybody who's using CBD with THC levels of under 0.3%. And people just didn't get the memo yet. So we have to educate. So the podcast that we're doing, the David G. Model Citizen, is going to be a double whammy. It's going to be for vapors who still want to quit smoking, because you'll be able to vape next year, but you'll be buying it for money will be going to Philip Morris and Imperial Tobacco and probably a couple other British American tobacco in Europe. But we still have the European and global market as well, but of which we're a part. So I just think that right now we have to consider, what we have to do to raise the level of awareness, because data does not always support propaganda, and the propagandists are getting more media than we are. So we have to do something magical. And I think the magical side of this now is Aaron's documentary, which I hope he gets fully funded to where it goes to the red carpet and we get it out there. He gets it out there, I should say. But at the same time, let my story come out and be riding his coattails, because I think my story does illuminate a lot of things that he says, because I've been consistent, I've been honest, I've been upfront, and but I'm tired, But I do think that my story can be told in a way that it will somehow, benefit these other opportunities, whether it be youth prevention programs for vaping, and if Jewel wants to do it, fine, but they won't be allowed in any schools since now they're partly owned by Altria. All of these things that we keep talking about week after week when we do this, and I have to watch every day, and you watch it even more than I do, because you're a young man yet, and you don't have to
Not
worry
yet.
about taking medicines and staying healthy. I read things from Clive Bates a lot, and things that are happening in the UK. And I guess it was just recently that the UK has shown again, and again that the vaping is so much better, and they are promoting it, and they are willing to back it, and they're willing to support it. And we still can't accept that as part of our reasons why we need to embrace it rather than poo-poo it. And that's why I'm saying it's time for me. Since the American Cancer Society is the one that helped me quit smoking back in 1988. And I made that announcement in 1988 on television, on CBS and ABC and NBC, that American Cancer Society was influential only because they were the people that I associated with cancer,
Right.
and my brother was dying of cancer. So obviously the two came together. But now I'm asking people who hear this to understand that when I boycott and when I ask for people not to donate to American Cancer, American Lung, and American Heart, it's not because I'm bitter. It's just that they haven't done anything positive in my life, when it comes to lung cancer. Have they done things for breast cancer and prostate? Yeah, they have walks for everything. And we talked about this before in the past. They have walks and relays for, every kind of cancer except lung cancer. So the lung cancer people are the forgotten ones. They're the expendable, the disposable, because they chose to kill themselves, because they chose to smoke when they were enticed and encouraged and lured and tricked by assholes like me who were paid a lot of money to make smoking look like one of the greatest things in their life. So I'm asking that nobody donate to American Cancer, American Lung, American Heart. Again, if you're going to give money, give it to the victim. Find somebody with cancer in your neighborhood, take your money directly to them, because only about 11% of it's going to go to research to prevent it. And they're certainly not going to send paid for press releases to encourage people who are continuing to smoke from the nation's number one cause of cancer being combustible tobacco. They're not going to put a nickel. All they're going to do is going to try to demean it, and they're going to make it even less valued because they want people to continue to smoke so they can continue to fill their offers. So, and it sounds pretty harsh to say that, and I don't care what people think of me. I don't care. And bail money, $20 is enough for me. We got
Something, yeah, it's just
$20
over
and
20.
17 cents. And if everybody that went to these conventions in the last 7, I got a couple more coming up, and then I'm done. But if everybody gave $1 that goes to these conventions and puts it into some sort of a fund for cancer victims, we could have a lot of money. I mean, we're not going to have the money that American Cancer has. They have almost $1
I
billion.
got
Did you know that, guys?
Agent Ann has in 2015, for every dollar spent on direct service, $6.40 spent on compensation and overhead. 16% or less of all money raised is spent on direct services to cancer victims, based on 2008 financial documents. The CEO at the time was $1,054,000, and the chief deputy was $1,057,000. So there's your example.
Okay, let me tell you, the net worth of American Cancer Society for 2017 was $847 million in assets. The Truth Initiative that was funded from the Master Settlement Agreement is worth 997 million, 3 million shy of being a billion in assets. American Lung, pretty much the same, maybe a little less, and American Heart, even a
And
little bit less
tobacco-free
than that, but
kids.
they're all close
And
to $3 billion
tobacco-free kids.
in assets. Okay. Yeah, and all we're asking to do is to back a product that we have proven and replicated scientifically, clinically in the laboratories, and it can be done again and again and again. And they are still trying to fuck with the people who are trying to enhance the quality of their life. So there go.
Lung
We have a problem.
Association
And
says the Lung Association says that the
what?
Food and Drug Administration has not found e-cigarettes to be safe and effective. The Heart Association buried, and it took me a little while to find it, and I know there's been a couple announcements. They do not contain or have lower levels of tobacco-derived potentially harmful constituents, so they're burying the context inside of something else, and it presents an opportunity for harm reduction. And the Cancer Society said e-cigarettes do not contain tobacco and are likely to be significantly less harmful. But I bet you can't do a search real quick and find it for me. That's the problem.
No, you can't. You know, that is the problem. And I can tell you right now, I think the numbers are we have 35 million people who now vape in the world, okay? And it's not doing them any harm, really. Almost all of them are ex-smokers or on the path to possibly being most likely quitting without relapse. And it doesn't cause actual harm. And this has nothing to do with the U.S. opioid crisis, which we're spending billions on and trying to promote. And we can't even get the American Cancer, Lung, and Heart Association, which we know is now helping 35 million people worldwide who will not need their services. Okay. Because right now, the bottom line that you guys have to remember, which is going to be it's going to be on my tombstone, I think. And that is, if for smokers, vaping offers up a pleasurable or viable pharmacological and a social and psychological substitution option for smoking, and it potentially and powerfully alters the experience and threat to possible disease and premature death, as well as the threat of relapse, and you believe it, and you know you've done it, and you've tried it, and 35 million people have proved it with replicatable science overwhelmingly corroborating the theory, and you're hearing it from a bimbo like me, how does this information get to the public if our normal press and our press
Right.
journalists and our television and our media,
Our
how do we
our
get to,
highest
how do
medical
we get to this?
professional. I'm on a Surgeon General watch. I'm on day 7, and I'm
No,
the only
love
guy.
it. You know,
I'm the lone
he still
wolf
isn't.
over here, but or whatever you want to call me, lone idiot. But 7 days since the New England Journal of Medicine said, "Hey, it's at least twice as effective," and he's not said a word, not one word.
One word.
And
And he won't call me. You know, he doesn't call me.
Wait a
Kevin
minute,
doesn't call
Steve.
me. Joe doesn't call me.
I publicly gave Jerome
You
Adams, as
know,
a Surgeon General, I gave him David's number and asked him to call, along with Dr. Gottlieb on Twitter. So,
mhm. And they haven't bothered to give me the. I'm gonna have to go to Donald. I'm gonna have to
get some
call
golf
Donald
clubs.
after his. No, after his win last night, you know, and his and putting up with the bullshit that he had to put up with those ass wipes, you know, Steve, I don't know if you're Democrat or Republican. Kevin, I don't know if I don't give a shit. Okay, I love you both, no matter what. You know, I just got to tell you that I'm not a really big fan of Democratic leadership right now, and I'm not a big fan of some of the ways he handles it. But I'll tell you what, yeah, he's my president, and he is president until he's impeached or thrown in jail or quits or walks away and says, fuck you, you know, I'm done with you ass wipes. And then we have to put up with the kinds of people that we've dealt with in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to have to call Donald, and I'm going to say, Donald, sit down with me. I'll buy you a cup of coffee. I know you don't drink and I know you don't smoke. But let me tell you that you got this guy, Scott Gottlieb, in there. And you got Jerome Adams in there. You need to get him the fuck out. You know, they need to be replaced by somebody who has named letters after their name that really knows what the Hippocratic Oath is. And that is to first do no harm, because they are doing a hell of a lot of harm. And nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to talk about it because it's irrational and it sounds like you're being a lunatic. And now you're being divisive. You know, I'm being divisive right now because these people are killing people. And nobody's talking about it because everybody's trying to be safe with the, you know, let's have a meeting and let's discuss it and let's go do the OMB and let's go down to the office and manage it and budget and, you know, put on a tie and talk to these people who will give us only their paralegals and their aides to come in and be their cut and pasters, you know, for their computers. So I'm just going to continue to do what I do, and you guys can stick with me or, you know, tell me to go shove off or whatever. But I got to do this, and I will continue to do it. I'm healthier now. I've got, obviously I don't sound it. I'm sick. I got COPD and emphysema, but I'm not dying. It's very moderate. It's under control. But I want to help people, you know, enjoy their life a little bit. And, you know, I was looking at things today about what to talk about, and I got a million things, and we don't have all of these, you know, this time to do it. But when I hear Gottlieb threaten that they're going to eliminate vaping if we don't get the kids vaping under control, I'm gonna hurt somebody. You know, that's what he's saying. If we do not get the kids,
I'm on a fence with him.
How do you do that?
I don't know if he's talking out of his ass or he's trying to appease. On one hand, he's talking about convenience stores and Juul. And he's not talking about, in one of his statements in 2018, it was the vape shops are not the problem, is what he said. I can't do it verbatim, but that's what he said. But he's still going after the industry as a whole. In my opinion, why I'm on the fence much, and I've backed off him a little bit, but I'm watching him, just like Surgeon General, is you need to start talking about the adults, not the kids.
That too, plus the fact, what about the 5.5 to 6 million kids
you're
who are able to
blocking less harm. You're restricting less harm.
Why are these kids expendable and disposable? Because they happen to smoke, and they're given a pass. So let's go after the other. You know, these kids, if they weren't vaping, they'd be smoking most likely. So I guess what I'm saying as we come to a close on this podcast tonight is that The FDA is going to decide who wins and who loses, guys. Okay, it's probably going to wind up being Altria and R.J. Reynolds and Imperial and British American and Lower Lord and Japanese tobacco. It's a done deal as far as I'm concerned. It's either vaping is either going to be regulated and legal, or it's going to be illicit and unregulated. Okay, so basically, what I'm telling people who do happen to listen to this, if they give a shit, is that vapors or smokers are pretty much on their own in search for truth. So and if they don't have a computer, go to the library and look it up. Don't expect the media to tell you. Don't expect me to be told that I'm off the wall, because they don't want the attention. They will just let me go thinking that I'm just off the wall. I'm a lunatic. I'm crazy. And I'm not. I mean, I may sound it sometimes, but pretty much smokers are on their own. I said it last week and somebody got mad at me. I said, you know what, smokers, you get a question about vaping. It's been out long enough. You've seen 10 million of your friends and family members quit smoking. Now they're vaping and you still haven't decided because you're on the fence. Get over it. Google it. Check it out. Do it yourself, because you're grown up. And that's been my mantra for the last year, and that is, I am not an advocate, because advocacy only means you help people can't help themselves. If a smoker is truly ready to quit, transition, take the bridge, take the walk into something that's going to be conceptually healthier, which we know it is, it's pharmacologically healthier, and it's going to be probably the best way not to relapse, and they still don't believe me, well, there's only so much you can do, guys, and there's only so much we can do, but people have to know the corruption that makes people angry. I get mad. I've hated the Democrats' leadership, for the last probably 10 years, because of people like Dick Blumenthal and that bitch Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro up in Connecticut. When I used to work with her in the youth tobacco program, she would hire me and I'd come up. You know who I'm talking about? She's the one that was purple. She's the one that patted my ass.
Really?
When we walked in, yeah, she slapped me on the ass when we were in the high school program. She hired me. I came, and her staff members brought me up to the school, and she patted me on the ass, and I was there with her and Dickie Blumenthal, and she just patted my ass, and I walked by,
Was she drinking
and
beer?
I was younger then.
Okay.
No, she wasn't drinking because it was early in the morning. So, but she had that funky hairdo and these big, huge glasses.
I'm looking for a lawsuit.
And she was very nice. I mean, she was sweet to me. Oh, well, she patted me on the ass, and I'm making that, and people saw it. And, it's really funny that she did that, because now she's trying to put all this crap, into this Democratic new congressional, freshman coming in under the Democratic women thing. And I'm not anti-woman. And God bless them. I just can't stand that other 4 or 5 people who are out there in front being the it girls for the Democratic congressional, people out there. But I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm just basically an independent. But anyway, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro and Dickie Blumenthal, I've hated them for the
Why do
last
we hate Blumenthal
15
again?
years. So
Why do we not like
It
Blumenthal
rhymes
again?
with menthol.
Richard Blumenthal? Richard Blumenthal? Well, first of all, he asked me, Richard Blumenthal, I was a part of all this. If you Google it, you'll see that he stole the valor. He told everybody when he was Attorney General of Connecticut that he spent time in Vietnam, and he never set foot in Vietnam. And he got caught. Did you know what he said?
Yeah.
He misspoke. he misspoke. So and he told me when I saw him, because I was with him and that Rosa DeLauro woman, and he asked me if I was ever in the Army. I said, yeah, I was a drill sergeant in the Army. He said, did you go to Vietnam like me? I said, no, I never made it to Vietnam, because I was stateside doing drill. I was a drill sergeant. So, and that was right after she patted me on the ass, when we were doing the school program with like 2,500, 2,700 kids in a big school auditorium up in Connecticut. So these are the people that I disliked for a long, long time anyway. And now they have just doubled down and made me hate them even more because of what they're trying to do. And they're still in their positions in political power, because Dickie Blumenthal went from attorney general to a state senator, and now he's got all this hate in him for some reason, because he got caught being a liar, telling people he went to Vietnam when he never set foot there. But he gets a free pass. I don't know a lot about Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, other than she's got funky hair and she smells. I don't know because I had a hubba hubba honey on, so my ass was bigger. So maybe that's broke it. I don't know. Um, but she and he and many other Democrats and some Republicans too. Don't get me wrong. I'm just very anti-political. I don't like politics. I do love Trump. I do think that he's probably misunderstood. He needs to shut the hell up once in a while. But you know what? I was thinking about it the other day. What would you guys be like if somebody, criticized everything you did from the second you woke up in the morning to the minute you went to bed at night, and the way you go to the
I
bathroom, the way
I
you
moved
drink
out
your
at about
tea, the
18.
way you drink.
I
Well, me
mean, I
too.
think I agree with you, but I think Donald Trump is the worst person to make an argument in his favor in that regard. He spent his whole life putting himself in the
Well,
spotlight on purpose. So
yeah, well, then that's okay. But you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about the fact that I do think we need a wall, and I do want, I want legal immigration. I don't want illegal immigration. I don't like the Democrats' platform on anything, but I don't want to get
you
into
don't
that.
want me
But
to get into
the only way to parallel, no, no, because you're young, you're a millennial, and that's not a negative. That's just that you see things differently than I do, and I just don't want to see. And I'm not a socialist. My son is. My son and I go to bat all the time. He loves
The only
Bernie
thing I'll say in the
Sanders. He
matter is, so
loves the social left.
I voted Libertarian in his last election, and the more I am exposed to just the political climate, modern political climate, the more I realize that although that seems like an ideal society, that people are just too dumb and too greedy to have that work, and that's why I've started to lean more Democrat. Because as much as we're against
Exactly.
government, running everything, I don't really trust people to figure it out on their own anymore. So
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you too, and I just think that we
yeah, and I
need
also
term
think,
limits
and
on a
the
lot of
only other
things.
thing I would say on the matter is, I think a lot of people who lean right and align with a Republican Party that from a couple decades ago, not the one we have now, and it's just a indoctrinated thing. I'm not saying that's you specifically, but I think there's a lot of people going back to talking about smokers trying to quit, or who haven't taken a leap yet. Like anything else, do some research. There's too many people who just trust a single news source and they're not seeing the other sides. And if anything, I've learned as a person and growing as a person is being able to see both sides of the argument, and not enough people do that.
Let me ask you this, because we
Yeah.
never talk about politics because we never have,
Yeah.
even say hello. But how do you feel about infanticide? How do you feel about New York and Virginia wanting to have full-term abortions? I mean, is that something? I'm just
No,
curious. I'm not
so
trying
I
to
mean,
get
I
into
would
an
consider
argument.
myself, I'm definitely pro-choice, but that's where I do definitely draw a line somewhere in there. So I would
Okay,
full
so
term.
you do have,
I'm not I'm not the authority on it. It's not an issue that I focus too on, but
well, I'm
yeah,
not saying you have to be authorities, but
yeah.
your opinion is valuable. Just like me. Well, I'm pro-choice too. I'm a guy. I can never have a baby. But you tell you what, I have 7 grandkids, and the thought of not having them because somebody finds it's inconvenient to have a baby, and like Oregon has 100% paid for free abortions in Oregon. Okay, not even a copay,
Right.
not even a deductible, 100% deduct, but you have to go and pay $5,000 a year to have deductible because you have arthritis or you have cancer or you have leukemia. I mean, these things just don't make sense to an old fart like me, and maybe even a younger fart like Kevin. And I don't want
No,
to get
I
off
think
on a
that's one. I
tangent. I'm
think that's
just curious.
a one for you. It's easier for people to make an argument about that one specifically. The way I've started to lean on like healthcare and stuff like that is just at what point do you draw the line between what is the morally right decision and what's the, hey, I shouldn't have to pay for this. Well, in the interest of humanity and the interest of being kind, at a certain point, can't you say, oh, well, maybe it's not a big deal as long as I have what I need to live, that some of it can't go towards making other people's lives better. And then the argument comes in, what
You're
about
100% right.
the people who are taking, pardon me, taking advantage of that system? People who don't really need food stamps, or people who are just abusing the unemployment system. Well, here's the
So how do
problem.
you
Well, that's the
control that though,
problem.
Steve? I mean,
You can't. And all the studies show that it's more expensive to try and prevent it than it is to just let those people be. So that's where, like, I'm obviously I'm a 27-year-old who until very recently didn't pay attention to politics much at all. So of course I don't have the fucking answer, but uh, I think I think people are a little bit. I don't know. You asked me a couple 2 years ago, and I would have had a totally different stance on this. Yeah,
And you know what, 2 years ago, 2 years from now,
right.
you'll have a totally different answer, but, you know, at this point in my life, pushing where I'm at right now, I'm worried about my kids' generation and their kids and your kids, and, you know, it's just something that we need to get a handle on, and I don't think we will. I think it goes back to the very basics, which is what I wanna do with this tobacco and the vaping thing and the pharmacological and big pharma, big tobacco, the lies, the corruption. It's always gonna be there, you know, that your generation is going to have the same thing. I get disgusted when I have to see all these people coming in and they have the answers uh, to really fix the world when it's not really fixable at this point. I think there's nobody that can fix this, kind of like an implosion, a comet hitting us and starting all over again. But you're always going to have the doubt. But that is what I'm talking about, Steve and Kevin. You know, we get so distracted by everything that's happened in the last few weeks, government-wise, politically, politicians, elections, Trump, hate Schumer, hate Pelosi, hate Blumenthal, hate. Yes. How do we fix this? But here's the problem with tobacco. These are the same people who are trying to take away an alternative, and more so Democrat than Republican, more
It
so
is heavily
Democrat
weight
than
on the
independent,
Democratic side.
more
Yep.
so Democrat. So that for me is what I have to
Of
position
course, and that's
my passion
of
on.
course, a much more to heart issue for you, and that's gonna and you
It's
can do the same
very
thing with
passionate
abortion
for
for
me,
some
but
people. Like I know plenty of people who are,
sure.
would lean left on almost everything, but it's just that's the issue they vote on, and it's that you're never going to change that. Um,
I mean, I'm all for women who want to have an abortion because they screwed up or
or
whatever,
a
or
health
it's
risk. Yeah,
rape or whatever. But
exactly.
don't make me pay for it. You know, don't use it as a form of birth control. And it's probably better that that child wasn't born because a person who's not responsible enough to take a pill with all the contraceptives available.
Yeah,
But you don't kill
okay.
a
So
baby as
what
far as.
if it's? I don't know that this would be the case, but I can imagine that a child raised because of a pregnancy that wasn't be desired, like that person didn't desire to carry to term because they can't afford it, they're in a poor situation. That kid ends up being a drain on not only the family but in society, and just that child existence ends up being more costly than it would have been to pay for the government to pay for an abortion. And you can scale that up
Not
with
even the
a
cost
lot of
factor,
issues.
but not even the cost factor,
Yeah,
not even the cost factor, Steve, but the lifestyle of that child who's
exactly.
going to bed hungry every night, who's cold. So yeah, but then you got the same thing with the immigrants, coming in. How many immigrants can we take care of? I can't go to Mexico without going through, and I can't stay there, and I have to get my ass out of there when I'm supposed to get my ass out of there. I just can't march in there. So everything that we're doing is a fight. But let's go back to this thing right here because it all relates around this choice thing. People chose to smoke when they were young. They're held accountable for the rest of their life. They finally decide they want to quit. There becomes an alternative. There comes an alternative that is proven to be safer, and yet government's trying to
It
take it
should be a
away because,
bipartisan issue.
because, because, because.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's what our point should be. So when we get off on these tangents, it's only because I learned from people like you as 27. I learned from my son, who I argue with all the time. He he, called, he called me the other morning. When Trump did something, I guess he wasn't going to have the State of the Union because Nancy Pelosi shut him down. And then Trump said something. He said, "There's your boy. He's going to be a one-term president, Papa." And I said, "I don't think so." And then we got off on
And
this
I know
thing
it's
and we
just in
went for
good
an hour
fun,
and a
but
half.
that's, I mean,
And I don't have,
that level of team alliance is part of the
that's how
problem, and
passionate.
that's yeah. So
Yeah. So I don't know how it's going to turn out. Kevin doesn't know. You don't know, and we don't know. And I just think that right now we have got to focus on things that I have I only worry about a problem I have a solution for. I don't have a solution for immigration or Russia or collusion or Mueller. I don't have I have a solution for raising the level of awareness with people who should have an opportunity to quit smoking if they want, with a product that has been proven over and over and over again to be helpful and will give them assistance to make that transition. So those kinds of things we have to talk about, only because for shits and giggles, it's fun. Number one, I learn. It gives me an opportunity to share my political view, but I certainly wouldn't force it on anybody, and I certainly wouldn't tell anybody. But I will tell you that if tobacco company is purposely, you know, um, spiking the levels of nicotine to make it more addictive if it is addictive. If big pharmaceuticals, have products that are only working 6, 7, 8% of the time, but they're charging 10 times
And
more than they should because they want you
I'm
to
going to
keep
interrupt you.
coming back or
And
going
you
back.
have the
Huh?
public health community going, keep trying 30 times.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not gonna solve this problem, but as human beings, we have a commitment to who we are as human beings, and that is to try to do the best we can with the kind of resources we have. And the resources I have is only knowledge, firsthand knowledge, experience. It's not speculation. It's not supposition. I know that it was my job by being told it was to get kids to smoke and replace those who quit or die every day. And now 40 years later almost, I'm still saying the same thing because everything else in this country has been new and improved. Everything has been improved. Everything is improved. Everything is progressive except for tobacco. Tobacco has not changed one bit as far as reducing the amount of toxins, poisons, irritants, pesticides. Nothing has been changed in tobacco, but yet we still see the same amount of people dying every year, and we will continue. But now something has come along to help that, and
all right,
somebody's
then do you
trying to
believe
impede that, and that's pissing me off.
that Altria is actually trying to change that? Okay.
Not for a second. Not for a second. And when people say to me, well, VTA is looking for sponsors and gold sponsors, and now Juul has given them $1 million or two, whatever it was, and Imperial Tobacco, who owns Blue,
Right.
has given them $500,000 and set them up on a no, I don't think that their motives are to be helpful. I think their motives is to just keep the pressure off of them so they can live to you know find new smokers another day, or vapors, because they will control vaping in the next 2 years, guarantee it. And 100 stores or 100 manufacturers who will now be partnered with um, big tobacco like Molecule Labs, if the rumor is true, that they are partnering with Imperial, which I've heard they are, but I don't have proof, but that's what I'm told. And and then a lot of their companies that they were manufacturing and packaging for, rather, the other smaller companies are being bought up, standing in line, waiting to be, taken to task with a check from big tobacco companies, and distribution companies that are owned by big tobacco. So it's not always big tobacco; it's a distribution company that, like Fontum. Fontum Distribution is owned by Imperial Tobacco. So just because you hear Fontum doesn't mean that it's R.J. Reynolds or or Philip Morris or Altria,
They're gonna
but
gobble
they're
the
owned
little
by big
guys up and
tobacco.
then kill
So
the rest.
there's
Really? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So so tomorrow night, well, whenever this podcast is out, I hope it strikes a nerve with some people, and I hope I get some emails to where we can discuss it more, because I'm not making this stuff up. And Kevin, you have the corroboration, and Steve, you have the technology to say, hey, let's put it on you know computer and get it out there for people to hear, and let people make their choices. And if people want to follow it, so we can continue our educational program to get people aware, to where we can help a smoker to say, hey, you know what, that makes sense. Let me try it this time. And I'm not going to listen to the media because some kid blew his face off, which is tragic. And no one is underestimating that. But, at the same time, 750 people died because a machine blew up in their face while they were working, and nobody gives a shit. Nobody hears about it. It's not discussed. OSHA's not even involved because it was an accident. It was an act of God. So I just think that we're beyond that as human beings, and I think we need to do better. And that's what I strive to do. And that's why I think, did you
I
hear that I'm
heard
being
rumors.
inducted to some vape hall of fame, Kevin?
Why does everything get a Hall of Fame?
That's a good question.
I don't know. I don't know. Last week I wasn't going to accept it. Last week I was going to
Dave, will you be my
say
first
thanks,
inductee
but
to
no
just crotchety old dude? Kevin, you can
I'll
be
be
number
number
two.
two.
Crotchety
Yeah.
old dude Hall of Fame.
Yeah. No, I got, excuse me, I got a call that I need to come to the Fox or Mohegan Sun vape convention in March. And I said, well, I didn't plan on going because my last one was going to be Oklahoma City, because I'm not going to do advocacy anymore. I'm going to do activism, not advocacy. And they said, well, you have to come. And I said, why? And then I was told that I was being inducted as the fourth inductee after Julie Westner from CASA, which is the Consumer Association, who I love. She's a great lady. Her and Elaine Keller, who started it. We go way back. She deserves it. She's been pretty, forthright. And then you got Five Ponds, which is a big manufacturer out in California. RJ and J Love, and they're inducted. And Michael Runchi from Giant Vapes, a big distribution company who sells. He's very, very good at what he does as far as a distributor, and he's really reasonably regulated, and he believes in advocacy, and he's on the board of SAFADA. And then I'm the fourth one. And so I guess I'm going because somebody wants to shake my hand and say thanks. Well, I get thanks every day from people who call me and say that, they're not smoking anymore because they tried my David G e-liquid, or they use the device I recommended, whether it be a Bow or whether it be a Boulder Rock or whether it be a mod from, or Nautilus from Aspire. So, I just do what I can to help, and, one at a time. And a lung surgeon can only help one lung cancer patient at a time. A heart surgeon can only help one person at a time. A lung therapist can only help one person. So if we do it every day and I get people to want to help one person at a time, and so on, then you make a difference in my book. I could be off the wall, but I think that's where my heart is, and that's what I'm going to continue to do as long as I'm alive. So that's kind of like where my program is tonight, guys. And I got so much more that I haven't even touched on, other than, I'm just going to tell you that, let me just leave you with this, guys, and you, Kevin, you can finish it up. But, it would be, why would anybody not embrace something that everybody in the world, scientifically, medically, know, including our own Mitch Zeller and our own Scott
Oh, they
Gottlieb,
know.
who knows that it is beneficial? Why they take that away from somebody? Why are these people's lives not as important? Because 2,500 or 2.5 million kids are vaping a Juul or a Bow or a vape pen, and the 6 million remaining kids who are still smoking Camels and Marlboros and Parliaments and Lucky Strikes are just forgotten. So that's the kind of questions I want to ask and get answered. And if somebody can prove me wrong, then I'll certainly address it, and I'll readdress, and I'll say my
I've
bad,
got
and
the
I'll move
same
on.
basic
But
thing on
so
my
far,
blog.
no one has.
Is if the
Kevin?
number one priority of reducing smoking rates is about less smoking, or is it about complete quitting? Is it about preventing less harm? And right now they're preventing less harm by regulation, restriction, tax, and bans. And that's unacceptable.
And let me finish with this, guys, because I used to give surveys when I was doing the school programs. I was a part of the National Tobacco Use Surveys. They weren't called that then, but they were just called surveys. We'd go into all the schools. And it was required from the grants that were given by whatever organization was giving them money for tobacco prevention and cessation. But the national youth surveys are bogus, and they are cherry picked because of the requirements that youth smoking must proportionally decline or fewer funds would be available to each state. So obviously they have to mark them up, and the normal responses on these surveys, if you were to go to a high school and somebody says, do you smoke cigarettes? And usually the responses that I used to read all the time, because I used to get them and pass them out as part of my,
And
the
those are
surveys were,
immediately
none of your
deleted, aren't
fucking
they?
business.
Yeah.
I ain't
There
telling
you
you.
go.
Yeah, I ain't telling you. Bite me. Duh. Screw you. So declines were always shown, okay, except um, they were fraudulent, and I told you this before, and I'll remind you again. When they wanted to have a national survey report statistic, they would go to, if they wanted to show a lesser amount of kids smoking, they would go to Provo, Utah with the Mormons, because obviously they smoke
Exactly.
less than the kids down in Detroit or Chicago or New York City or Manhattan or Long Island. So they would cherry pick all of the statistics that they would want to get the numbers that they would want that would increase the value of their next grant or their
So
next
this is inner
fund that they
city,
would get for
basically.
the next fiscal year.
Inner city as in big cities, LA, New York, Chicago. Right. Okay. I never took one. I'm in the middle of suburban Dayton, Ohio. I graduated in 86 and I never took one.
Well, let me tell you something. I never took one. And the only time I would give a survey with the people that hired me, which was usually the public health department that would bring me in under their corroboration with, or, collaboration with American Cancer or Lung. They would bring me in and I would do my program and then a survey would be done. And so you ask these kids, the survey would have to be done because that's how they get their next grant. They have to show that they've substantiated, where their money was being spent. So when the question was asked, do you smoke cigarettes? The number one answer was none of your fucking business. The second one was, I ain't telling you. Third one was
Those are the
bite
same
me.
friends I had.
And the fourth one was screw you. Yeah, and say so then once in a while you would get some smart ass kids that would say, yeah, I smoke, and that they're doing the same thing with the vaping now. Do you vape? And what kid in eighth
Nope.
grade is going to
And
admit that
I'm
he or
going
she
to add
vapes?
that the
They're not.
sidearm
They're going to lie.
amendment, in my opinion, is all tied in with Tobacco 21, and they get their grants out of that. So they're going to have a higher rate of infractions of people trying to purchase vaping products as well between 18 and 20. 20%.
And
Yeah,
the
you
acceptable
can
factor is what,
possibly,
20%?
Steve, if you want to, under 18, possibly purchase tobacco and vaping products at this point, and they can pass at an 80%. I mean, if you can any job that you do, can you run at an 80% rate? I mean, really, nothing.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Your next evaluation isn't going to be that good. But now they're worried about the 2 million kids who are vaping, a pen or whatever. And I know we have a problem. I know kids are going, but that's the other point of the whole thing. Kids are going to be kids. And how many times have we said this on the David G. Model Citizen program? Kids are still binge drinking. Kids are still having unsafe sex. Kids are still texting and driving. Kids are still
I think I did
bullying.
like 3 of
Kids
those
are
things
still
just
All right,
cussing when they're
Steve, you're an unbiased
yeah.
ear. So
I don't know
let's
about that.
pretend we both know a 16-year-old kid who's been smoking for 2 years, and his parent says he's got to quit, and you say, well, go get the patch, and I say, well, give him a pen. Which one's right?
No, I'd go towards the pen.
Would you? Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, but it's not an unbiased opinion because I've been exposed.
Well,
to
yeah,
this.
you're right. You're right.
So but here's the thing. So I know we're trying to wrap up here because we're getting long, but there continues to be, and it's actually, I'm sure the Democrats are part of the problem in this regard. My generation is pretty left leaning, and the left is against it all, and and they're part of the problem.
Right.
So it's in the same way Trump fans refuse to see criticism. Just my generation doesn't go against that grain because they lean so left. And I don't know where the answer is going to be, but I also just, everyone I know on a daily basis who smokes, and I've asked about it, they're like, oh, well, vaping's worse. And and then I have to spend, all right, I know this is a good thing to have a conversation about, but I heard the umpteenth time I'm going to tell you why popcorn lung is bullshit.
You're welcome.
So, yeah.
Right. Well, that's what Kevin and I have been doing for a lot longer, Steve. So pardon our arrogance sometime about things, but in politics especially, because I'm so disgusted with politics. But at some point you got to stay in touch with these people. So I will be going down to see Donald and Melania. Hopefully,
have some McDonald's,
having a luncheon with them.
You do.
Having McDonald's. Smart ass. And then at the same time, I'll try to bring Nancy in to get them to talk to each other.
I'll tweet Don.
Hug.
I'll do that tonight.
You might get some unwanted attention from the rest of Twitter if you do that. I'd be careful. I'd be careful with that one.
I'm sorry we got off. I'm sorry we got off on a little tangent here politically, but it's important to me to express myself because being two times older than you, and
no, I'm half breaking your balls. I mean,
Kevin.
I'm convinced if I were to have a conversation with you from my perspective, you'd probably be a little bit more towards the middle than you are. But in the same way that learning about vaping has opened my eyes to an issue that my party is a big problem with, that's a big contributor to the problem. So
Right.
it's good to have those conversations.
As my party, or as an independent, because I'm more independent, and I just don't like politics. I don't like the Democratic leadership. I don't like the
They're
Republican
all
leadership.
crooks.
I don't like, but I have to like somebody. And right now he is our president, and whether you like him or not, then you have to suck it up and get over it and move on until the new president comes in.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. And I would like to take advantage of the kind of promise that he's made to not have a lot of government overreach, which we still have. And I would love for him to fire Gottlieb. And I know that people say to me, Dave, you can't keep
Yeah, you
giving
can.
Gottlieb
Why
a
can't
big
you?
FU. Well, yeah, I can. Because, but, well, because the problem is he's going to get a hard on, and he's going to say, you know what? I have the muscle. I'm going to flex it. You piss me off. I'm going to make it even worse for you. So I understand that too. But you know what? At some point, you got to call it what it is. And I still don't know if Jerome Adams is
I'll
divested of
assume
his
he
tobacco
is.
stocks.
We
Do you know,
we
Kevin?
can
Do
all
you have any
assume he
idea?
is because he was told he had to, but he did own stock while he was Indiana's. Let me flip my page here. He was in Indiana.
Don't
He
worry
was
about
the
it. You don't have to be
tobacco
specific.
control
Wherever
doofus, and he had tobacco stocks. When he entered
wizard,
the Surgeon General office, he owned
yeah,
tobacco stock. He was with Cure,
just
right?
like
Right.
Gottlieb was a
And
big
Brenda
stockholder with
Brenda
Cure
Fitzgerald
in
had
the paper.
stock,
Yeah. So
and
anyway,
she bought. I believe she bought it after she was CDC director. Margaret Hamburg owned and allegedly colluded with her husband for Johnson & Johnson stock, and she was allegedly acquitted. So I'm not
oh
positive
sure,
of that. I don't
absolutely.
want a
Margaret,
lawsuit
they
over that.
married. No, she was guilty. She was guilty. They got. But anyway, either way, let's wrap this up tonight, guys. The David G. Model Citizen podcast is going to be running a little bit more and often. The YouTube's going to be hitting, once or twice a week once I learn how to use my camera and go live. And I'm going to do some things to encourage people to subscribe to the David G. Model Citizen and the Pinnacle Hour. And we didn't spend a lot of time on CBD tonight because there's just too much going on in the vaping world, which is connected to CBD. But I am a big, proud partner with the Pinnacle family and the CBD and what is happening. And, they're growing leaps and bounds. And we have to be careful that the FDA doesn't come in and take over the CBD factor, which they did after 15 minutes of celebration when the Farm Bill passed. And the FDA came in as well. You can't put hemp in food because we have to regulate it. So now it's going back to the same shit that we had with the vaping thing. So, every day is a struggle. But in the meantime, sharing my thoughts with you guys is always fun. It's always memorable, and hopefully people will listen to this and it'll perk them up a little bit to where they want to listen in again next week. So, guys, thanks for being with us tonight, and look forward to next time. Have a good evening or day or afternoon, whenever you hear it.